Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us on the Political Deep Dive, fresh from our 1 week hiatus. How did you spend your Thanksgiving break, Dan?
I went down to Texas, which was awesome. Hung out with my sister who lives in Houston. Um, Saw my brother and his children, my niece and nephew, my sister's three boys, which was very exciting. My dad came down, and then a lot of other friends and family. Jess Mears was there with
Oh,
her new
cool.
baby and her husband. That was awesome to see
Yeah.
them, and it was a good time. And then last week I sort of focused on business stuff,
It's business time.
business, taking care of it.
Yeah. Right on.
How about you,
What about
ma'am?
you, AJ?
Well, we went to my mom's and then to the Dunkles that night. It was the first Thanksgiving I've had off. We figured out in 7 years.
Wow.
Wow.
So, so I ate too much, like everybody else, I imagine. How about you, Dave?
I so I we s- it was a staycation. Leo was off that week. I couldn't get enough time off for us to go down to Georgia, so we cooked a ham. I smoked a ham on the pellet grill, and it was cherry rum wood, along with the glaze was cherry preserves mixed with cherry juice, and it was delicious, very good. And then my wife made a bunch of sides and stuff, so we just hung out. Yeah, I ate too much, absolutely. Uh, I might need some plumbing work at some point. It was a lot of fun though. It was nice.
Inside plumbing work or outside plumbing work?
It's probably gonna need all the way to the sewage treatment plant at this point.
That I'm referring to that as outside as opposed to inside your body, because you say,
Oh,
"I ate too much, and then I need plumbing work."
Need plumbing work. That's what
not
I
that
was
plumbing work.
thinking.
Yeah, that's that outside plumbing work. All that works. What's up, Craig?
Works
How you
good.
doing, sir? Yeah, so a really interesting 2 weeks. We've had a lot of things go on. We had of course, the Rosalind Carter funeral.
Sad.
Jimmy did not look that well.
I mean, he looked
It was
like
good.
somebody in hospice, and you consider that he's been in hospice for a year?
Yeah, he's been.
Hmm.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Uh, I've been sharing this around on Facebook, but uh, there are lots of YouTube videos out there by hospice
Mhm.
professionals, and I really recommend everybody watch a couple of them.
Yes.
And so one of the nurses that I've been following talked about Jimmy Carter's appearance. She talked about the fact, I don't know anything. Like I don't know anything about his case or anything like that. She's like, but something that I can tell you is that when you're in hospice, you do get progressively weaker. You are essentially passively dying up until you reach the stage when you're actively dying.
Yeah.
She said, and one of the things you don't realize is that there's actually a tremendous amount of muscles used to keep your mouth closed. And as you get weaker, it's just easier for your mouth to go.
Yeah.
And if you've ever visited anybody in hospice, one of the things that you can do because their mouth will be open is to use a sponge and to keep their lips wet and wet the inside of their mouth because they don't really have the ability to do that anymore. In fact, one of my greatest nightmares was a friend of mine was in hospice, and the nurse was wetting his lips, and he bit down on the thing and wouldn't release it. and it felt like he was trying to tell us something, but we couldn't figure out what the fuck it was. And I'm like, man, that would suck ass.
Yeah,
Which is why I'm planning death with dignity.
exactly.
However, look at Jimmy Carter. You know, he's clearly being cared for very well,
Oh
and he's
yeah.
in hospice. And you know, I mean, let's talk about the metaphysical side of that, right? Uh, Dave, do you want to be first or second to go?
First.
Interesting. I want to be second. I have to work on it to make it there because my wife is very healthy. But I'd rather have to be the person who deals with.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, I was thinking completely opposite. Yeah, no, I want to be the second to be able to take care of stuff. There have been times where I've thought about my cat, and it to me it breaks me up to think because she's getting older.
Yeah,
Um, and pets are harder in that we know when when you have children, the expectation is you're going to outlive the child, but when it
right,
comes to pets, you're going unless something happens, you're generally going to outlive your pet.
right.
That's the harder thing, but no, I want to be around to. I don't want to put that burden on Aaliyah.
I tell you, Avens posted something that was just friggin' heartbreaking the other day, and she said, "But she's like, this is a post, and I just want you guys to see it." And said, if I should die unexpectedly, please let my pets see my body so they know that I didn't abandon them. I wouldn't want
Yes.
them to have that feeling. I don't know how much closure a pet can have,
Yeah.
but I think they can have some. I think certainly mammals, the cats and dogs,
Oh, we've heard
understand to have.
stories.
The
Yeah,
cats
we've
won't care, but
heard the cat will get up on top of your casket and knock down all the flowers.
exactly. Right. The cat's going to be like, so who's going to feed me?
Yeah, that's what Sophia wanted to be like.
Right.
What? Who's going to feed me?
But a dog would be very sad.
Dog will be very
Oh,
sad, but they'll also wonder who's going to feed them. So
Well, don't worry, AJ. I mean, you're not gonna leave that dog alone.
knock on wood.
Yeah,
I am in Tennessee after all.
well,
true. Um, let's see.
what's up,
Something
James?
else
How you
was
doing, sir?
down that line, but I don't remember what it was. Oh, well. However, there is a. Let me see if I can
Your cat
send.
will. Yeah, this is true, James. Your cat and your dog will eat you if no one knows for a few days that you have passed on.
Right now, what's interesting about that is I don't know if that link is going to work for you, Dave. But this was, something that a lot of prominent politicians
Bad URL for me.
are
Mhm.
facing right now. All right, let me see if I can just share it real quick from here.
I had the chat for a moment. Keep chatting away. I'll be sharing that as we go. But
Yeah,
where did the?
they
Oh,
approve me sharing.
so I am. I'm learning a new system on our on
Yeah,
Restream. It's kind of like an OBS system, but
right. So, I mean, that's where we are. Thank you for letting me share it.
I mean, it is the world's most expensive hospice.
Well, it is, and it solves the problem because they have health care there, as opposed to having to live with Medicaid and Medicare.
Well,
Which,
so I guess first news story that we can talk about is someone who's not going to make it to old age within the halls of Congress. One George Santos
Benefits.
getting yeeted by the House on what, Saturday?
yep,
Finally,
disappointing for a number of reasons, not the least of which is, uh, he was referring to the fact that when he was elected, they put in a clause in his district saying what would happen if he were expelled. And now he's denying it. He's saying there is no Santos clause.
oh,
I'll be here all week.
And it's time to mute Dan. Yeah, so but I mean, long overdue. And there've been what, two other attempts to
Yeah.
move him out of the house. And so one of the guys I follow in the house is Jeff Jackson from North Carolina, and he voted against expelling him twice before. He wanted to have the ethics report done before they uh, expelled him. Which to me, I get the reason. Yeah, have the case laid out that of what he did. Um, Among the things, the misspending of political donations to include lots of Pornhub. Um, so, uh, you know, I mean, there are worse things that a politician can spend money on. I'll just say that right now.
There are worse things.
Yep. I mean,
It does just seem like he was part of the entertainment of it all, doesn't he?
what's
Yeah.
crazy about it is it's unclear how much of any of him is real,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
Is he a Republican?
No.
Is he gay? Is he, actually human? Is he maybe possibly one of the lizard form people sent to infiltrate? Because that would explain a lot. That would explain his inability to understand the basic mistrust that most people have. Because he says some crazy ass shit all the time.
I mean, I've been around people who have this lack of a relationship with the truth. I actually had a roommate that was a pathological liar, which was very interesting. A few months of my life. Um,
Well,
it was fine until he got kind of violent, and we had to get him out. But yeah, I mean, there are people who just their lives are such, at least in their mind, is such shit
yeah.
that they have to make up a persona and make up a thing to make themselves seem interesting. And
Yeah.
the more they get away with it, the more outlandish it gets.
And there's this crazy thing. I mean, this really leads into an important topic for us because how do you deal with the people who believe something that is not true? Just is not true. And we're dealing with that all over the place now. Whether we want to talk about,
What's
the
up, Todd?
January 6th, what actually happened, whether we want to talk about, Israel, Hamas, there's all this crazy stuff going on. Holocaust deniers, right? Climate change people. There are lots of people who won't abandon their vision of the truth because their political allies have said, this is what we need. This is what we need to be true. And so then the followers come out there and say, okay, we'll make it true by repeating it and saying that everything else is false. So how do we solve a world where that's what's
Jonah?
broken? Craig, you raise a good point. One of us should message Janet just to remind her.
And it may be
One of-
because I've had some issues with one of I had a broadcast earlier tonight on my hockey show, and somebody was putting stuff into comments and it didn't show up. So she may be commenting somewhere.
all right, let me message her real quick. But back to my other point of how do we deal with these people who don't agree on the reality of sort of basic facts? There's two things. First of all, the Dunning-Kruger syndrome, which I'm going to see if any of our listeners can tell me what Dunning-Kruger means.
It's a law that was passed in 1986.
Yes, dealing with the transportation of South African currency,
That's right.
the Kruger Rand. All right. So what Dunning-Kruger says is that the less you know about a topic, the more convinced that you are that the facts that you know are right. And the more you know about a topic, the greater the chance of you saying, but I could be wrong. And, it's really an important thing. What are you laughing at? Oh, James.
Freddy Krueger. Yeah.
So there is this problem of these people who don't know anything, but are convinced of their definition of the facts. And how can we live in a world where people disagree about the basic facts of what's
Well,
happening?
it's not just that. We've got an active, for whatever reason, whether it's, Russian troll farms or, anti-climate, pro-climate, whatever it is, you've got people out there that are deliberately trying to obfuscate the truth, and to be able to push their narrative, to be
Right.
able to cloud the waters so that I think it's more to paralyze the people because they don't know what the truth is. So, how can we make a definitive plan about this issue or another issue and to then get some kind of action going forward. It's just you get paralysis by analysis. You got so much information, and half
Mhm.
of it is untrue or partially true. Because the greatest lies are the ones that are partial truths that that you can see. Oh, okay, that kind of makes sense, but then there's enough falsehoods within it to be able to uh, really write it off as false. But there's just so much out there now. And, I remember we always talked about the information superhighway being this great thing that we have all this information about, or have information at our fingertips. And it's also now a source of a lot of distrust, a lot of clouding of the truth, a lot of, really just anger generating content. I call it hate porn or, the outrage porn of the day because we're being forced into, into othering people. We're treating people like they're, especially, very marginalized groups, like they're others because it's easier to pick on them. There's not enough of them to push back.
Yep.
And
Mhm.
2, they do things that we may not understand completely. And it's the politicians have realized that, and the trolls have realized that it's easier to get someone to hate somebody because you don't quite understand what they're going through, what their life is. Um, uh, but yeah, it just, I think right now we're tuned into so many channels right now that some are feeding us truth, some are. That's why it is so important for you to really have self defense and really understand. Don't just take the article at the headlines. And you gotta dig into the article, you gotta know the source, you gotta know things to be able to protect yourself from this, kind of this dumbing down of America, dumbing down of the world, really.
Well, there is so much of an overload when it comes to clickbait,
Oh, yeah.
headlines. There is somebody whose literal job is to get you to click that. And once you click it and you actually go through the article, sometimes you can tell right off. It's funny when you have, like, Google News, where it's kind of a mix of everybody, you'll see the same story, and this is the red person's version, and this is the blue person's version, and this is the gold person's version, and then, like, somewhere out there, we'll never know, is the truth, and, like, that is the scariest part of it all. Like, when I left Facebook in February, earlier this year, I I did so because it was so difficult not to see people in California, not to see people in New York, but to see local people being so terribly hateful because there was a keyboard between them.
Yeah.
These are the same people that I'm gonna see at Walmart later. These are the same people that I'm gonna see in the school line. Um, that's the part that got me so much, and you're talking about how do you deal with people that are that are so ill-informed that they still believe that Trump won, and so many of their friends and relatives have actually gotten in trouble for January 6th. If you look at the list of the people involved, so many of them were from Tennessee.
Yep.
West
So
Virginia too.
honestly, a lot of like self-help, like, keeping yourself from being overwhelmed, keeping yourself from being in danger of all of these talking people and voices full of disillusion. I've cut myself off from a lot of people. I have lived in Tennessee for 41 years, and I talk to less people now than I ever have. I have to be very selective on who I will be around. I will be very selective on what events I will go to because depending on who's there, like, I know it's gonna be a problem. That is something that I'm it doesn't seem to be normal everywhere. When I talk to my friends from other places, that they don't seem to have as much issue. Um, but I don't know, like, if this is the Bible Belt, then this is like the buckle. It is the most serious part of the belt because it is ridiculous. We're absolutely covered up with people that believe that Trump won, that he should absolutely win again, um, and that anyone that disagrees should absolutely move. Well, okay, you know,
Well, Jasper
I,
puts
I,
a pretty good point that there's so much distrust on the internet. It's harder to find information about a topic. It is because you have to filter through. There are people that are very good at search engine optimization. So if you put in topic into Google, um, there are people that are really good, especially these clickbait people, are really good about search engine optimization. That article is going to float to the top of whatever search you're doing. Um, and if you're not savvy about stuff, you're getting a lot of misinformation, or you're getting directed to other things, um, that are take you down a different rabbit hole when it comes to the type of information you're seeking. It really
absolutely.
is incumbent about knowing which sources are at least semi reliable, and going to those. If you click on an article and the first however many inches you scroll down in the article is nothing but ads, um, you're the news story, and
Well,
they're just trying to sell you something. So
but so how do we get people who don't want to be curious to become curious? How do we deal with these people who don't want to be persuaded away from their point of view? Because for most of these people, there's pretty good evidence out there. They're willfully ignorant.
yeah, I think a lot of it is the fact that we are now just buried behind screens. Like I've got 3 screens right in front of me right now. We're buried behind screens. We're not talking to one another, actually making conversation, looking
Right.
people eye to eye. Because I think a lot of times when you get to talking to people, uh, you
It's
can
much easier to
actually
be convincing in person.
it's easier to convincing, and it's also easier to one, there's you're taking the internet bravado out of the equation. I mean, there are some
Mhm.
people who are just complete assholes who will try and beat you up anyway, but you will go you will go, if you're able to interface with somebody face to face, the ability to find common ground, I think, is the big thing. Once you start finding common ground, um, and then you can start picking apart some of their arguments and showing them truth. Now, there are people who are just, I mean, it doesn't matter what you say, are so convinced of the lie that
Mhm.
Right.
there's no redemption. And identifying those people and perhaps removing yourself from that situation is probably best. Um,
Well, I think there's two things in that. Yes, for sure, you have to remove yourself from that situation
sure.
because those people are potentially dangerous. I mean, it's funny you talked about you had a roommate who's a pathological liar and eventually became dangerous. I've told this story before. I was raised Jewish. There's not much that stuck from my Sunday school education, but I do remember the rabbi saying very clearly in the Ten Commandments, it does not say, do not lie. The universe needs you to lie upon an occasion.
Sure.
Do you like my haircut? Does my ass look fat in these jeans?
Yeah, baby. Smack
There
it.
are answers. But
You knew what was gonna happen. You already knew.
it's important that we sort of need these little lies. On the
With
other
consent.
hand,
With
you
consent.
know,
Say that.
I'm sorry, what'd you say?
Yeah, but you have to do the yeah, baby, it looks great. Smack that ass. Do it with consent, of course.
Okay. but in that same space of, you know, the world needs the little white lies. What do you do about the people who are spreading the terrible ones? Okay. Not just that they have that belief, but then they're spreading them, right? Do you have some sort of obligation as a person who knows the truth to evangelize for the truth?
Sure. I mean,
I
I
mean,
think you do. I think you have to where especially the lie is especially dangerous. And like little white lies
Mm.
where, yeah, your haircut looks fine. Okay, I mean that's a white lie. But
Dave, you look a lot thinner.
I know that's a
sorry,
lot. I mean,
sorry, dude.
but uh,
Me
I would
neither.
say that where there is a lie that is being propagated that is dangerous, that is rallying people to a dangerous end, or is potentially bringing violence into the equation, then yeah, then now you have a responsibility. And I know that a lot of people in the within the libertarian community feel that as long as it doesn't involve me, I'm going to just walk away and not it's not none of my business.
Right.
But
Mhm.
no, you do have a responsibility to speak truth to whether it's power or just
Or people.
stupidity.
Well, so there's an interesting thing because, like, I think the next pandemic is coming probably 2 or 3 years. It just
Awesome.
That's where we are. Well, but the thing about it is, our anti-pandemic technology is really good now. There won't be any fucking around about, oh, we can't make a vaccine for it. We're gonna have to test or anything like that. Moderna and Pfizer will just roll it out. But the anti-vax problem is going to solve itself.
You would
So,
hope.
what is our obligation to try to convince? Like, so I used to, in my neighborhood where I lived in Massachusetts, I was the tech guy for the street. A lot of
Yeah.
elderly people on the street, stuff like that, and they would ask me to help them with their Wi-Fi or to get their cable set up or something like that.
Set the clock on their VCR.
Right. But sometimes, I would be there and then they start talking and they were old people. And so they would say like Fox News stuff and things like that.
Mhm.
So generally, I would put the adult channel lock on Fox News. I felt that was my obligation to,
Oh, that's great. Uh,
I, yeah, I don't
James,
know.
that's what she said, James.
Exactly. Or right, exactly. You could do there's all sorts of things. I So we talk about Dunning-Kruger, and it's going to be easy to talk about it growing old too, because all of us except for AJ are growing older. AJ inexplicably gets younger every year that we're on the air.
This is true.
But
thank
for Dave
you.
and I, as we get older, we're going to be those old people at some point that are saying, crazy political shit. Uh, and I know this. My grandmother, who came by, zeroth generation American, she came over. But at one point in time, I was getting ready to ride the subway. She's like, "You got to be careful about the Schwarzes on the subway." And I'm like, "Nana, you know, you can't say that." She's like, "I don't want to say it, but I want you to be careful." And so, there's still old people that have,
Yeah,
I,
no,
I don't want to say cute casual racism, but
But it's there.
it's
yeah,
It's
there
yeah.
there.
exactly.
Oh, yeah.
So the interesting thing about it, though, is that sometimes, the way that you fix those things, this is really going to go full circle, is visibility. Like,
Mm.
at one point in time, my Nana did actually meet a couple of black people and had a very pleasant conversation with them. Friends of my sister's from her high school. My sister went to a boarding school in Massachusetts, and she's like brought all these people home to visit her grandmother. And she's like, "Oh, they're very nice." And so then later on, the next time my grandmother started to say something, she said, "Remember those two girls who came over and you fed us all, right? They were also."
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm.
so that sort of thing, but that's why defending visibility is also a very important part of this, and sort of not denying the truth, because we talk about the people who are, actively suggesting these terrible lies. A lot of those lies are aimed at the LGBTQ community. And there's all sorts of lies saying, oh, if this happens, your children are going to be corrupted. If we allow gay adoption, blah, 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 blah.
Oh, we saw
If
today, this week there was a prominent conservative blogger who called out Dave Rubin and his husband for doing surrogate route.
wait, if Dave Rubin has a husband, don't they have to have a surrogate?
Well, yeah.
Okay.
If you go on this dude's webpage, it's all using women renting out their wombs and comparing it to sex work and things like that, prostitution. I mean, the dude's a nutter.
Well, they're not having an abortion. Fucking figure out which one you want. Jesus.
I know. Like, it just kind of
let me point out.
force.
Let me point out. Jesus was the original surrogate baby.
Am I wrong? Yes. It's hilarious. You grew up Jewish and came up with that joke before. That's great.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, they train us for stuff like that in Jewish Sunday school. Jesus walks into a bar, puts 3 nails down. He says, "Hey, can you put me up for the night?"
Oh no.
Okay, sorry. Anyway, so it's interesting. I didn't realize that's it, but that's why us standing up for visibility for everything is in many ways the only way to combat those who want to deny the truth, because there's nothing truer than what you actually see with your eyes when you're in person. You experience it, and if you go to, I'll tell you, I've probably been to, I don't know, let's say 25 pride parades, and in the beginning, pride parades were about visibility for one spectrum of the lifestyle. But at the end, pride parades were gay parents who'd been married for 20 years walking with their kids, saying, "This is what pride looks like. We're proud of our lives." And it's not, and I totally respect Queer Nation. We're here, we're queer, get used to it. One of the best chants ever made. That concept is now more, we're here and we're not queer. We're your neighbors. We are the people that that sort of thing. You have visibility of what the community is really like. The LGBT community has no fewer and no more disproportionate people than the regular community. It's human beings, and we have a wide variety of extremist activities. I mean, right? If you ask me what's some of the most extreme behavior, who are these idiots flying in the space suits, the sky suits, right through the middle of cracks off of mountains and stuff like that? I would never do anything like that. That is crazy, extreme behavior. Doing drag, that seems relatively normal.
Yeah. No, I get you. I would never fling myself off the side of a mountain, especially in a suit.
Right. Why would you jump out of a perfectly good airplane?
Yeah, none of that stuff. But I'm also not going to advocate for that stuff to get banned or have people who are into that lifestyle
Right, exactly.
be shunned. So,
Something out of things.
yeah. As crazy as I think that is, I mean that like I say, different strokes for different folks. You do you. So, let's see what else is in the news. Oh, I saw a story. This is actually one of the headlines on Drudge today. The Supreme Court is taking up a tax case that threatens to gut much of the current existing tax code. It stems from the 2017 tax law that Trump passed that basically gutted a lot of the tax breaks people could take for filing state taxes, especially in high tax states like New York and things like that, giving a lot more to doing like a lower rate for one-time moving of money back into the United States by businesses. Paul Ryan, former Speaker of the House, indicates that if the Supreme Court rules that this taxing of income that has not been realized, that's at the heart of this, whether if you take income out of a company, they can tax you at a higher rate, but they're also taxing you on unrealized capital gains, which means you haven't taken the money out. If that's taken out, it could rule it up to about a third of the U.S. tax code, which sounds like a great thing. But also noting that the United States is 30 some odd trillion dollars in debt. What impact is that going to have long term?
Yeah, I mean, it's like asking, what's the thing with there's so much water coming into the Titanic, the ship is going to sink no matter what you do.
Sure.
And your question is, should I start bailing with a Dixie cup or with a ladle from the kitchen? It's not going to happen.
Exactly.
Can you explain like the mechanism?
So the court is going to hear arguments from Moore versus U.S., which challenges a piece of the 2017 tax law that imposes one-time levy on profits that companies had accumulated outside the United States. But its implications could reach much further, providing the justices an opportunity to define what Congress can tax under the Constitution and what it can't. Case brought by a Washington State couple seeking a $14,000 refund raises a simple question: must income be realized or received before it can be taxed? Reading down in the article, so the couple, Charles and Kathleen Moore, argue that when a law was passed, they hadn't realized the income from their investment in an India-based company, um, and therefore they shouldn't have been taxed for that income. Um, Conservative groups are backing them. Tax lawyers in the government say sweeping ruling could also upend many longstanding rules affecting partnerships, multinational corporations, bond investors. Former Speaker of the House, Paul Ryan, who helped write the 2017 tax law, warned it in September that the case could damage a third of the entire U.S. tax code.
Huh.
What? So, the U.S. is in a lot of trouble when it comes to uh, with its debt right now, 30 some odd $trillion.
What direction are we not in trouble in? Just
I know.
Well,
just for
it,
shits and giggles.
you know, it is an interesting thing because income tax is not the largest part of receipts for the federal government. And, now that I'm reading more about it, this really is going towards income tax only. So, and income tax is, arguably the worst of all the taxes,
Yeah.
right? I mean, they tax cigarettes to stop you from smoking. They tax alcohol to stop you from drinking. Why are they taxing income?
It is
So
the ultimate sin tax. You're productive.
exactly, it is the ultimate sin tax, and it is the worst possible thing to tax, even at a progressive rate. The moral justification for it. Yeah, AJ.
Oh no, that was a terrible slip up. Tennessee taxes groceries.
Groceries
Still
is also
taxes
a
groceries.
ridiculous thing to tax.
Yes.
But
See, you can say anything, and I'm like, oh no, Tennessee does it worse.
what's interesting
Sorry,
about it is,
it's a game now.
and I know Tennessee also has a state income tax.
Do they? No, I thought they did. They don't have a state income tax. That's why everything
No
else is
state income
taxed.
tax.
Everything else is
Everything else is taxed out the ass.
Interesting. Well, so they do that
Mhm.
part better. But I will tell you something interesting, AJ,
What's
and
that?
anybody else who lives in a state that has a grocery tax.
Mhm.
Libertarian Policy Institute wants to come to your state and pay you to help get the grocery tax repealed. So
I'm
if
so
you
busy packing for Colorado. I'm not sure I'm going to have time for fighting for Tennessee anymore.
m- m-
I've tried that for years now.
maybe one of your kids could do it.
I don't think
they should
either of
work
my
with.
kids will be anywhere near interested in working with libertarians. They saw
How,
what happened to me.
well, but what's interesting about it is that in this case it's the Libertarian Policy Institute, but there don't have to be
Mhm.
any other libertarians involved. In fact, when they just ran this campaign in Alabama, they worked with the Democratic Party
Mm.
because it makes a lot of sense to Democrats that we shouldn't pay taxes. Heidi has no red pad tax now. I don't get that.
Yeah, I don't know what a red pad tax is, but in Tennessee, they should be working with For All Tennessee.
Yeah, Justin Cornett
Yep.
and I
Josh,
can't
I don't think
remember.
Josh is with them anymore, but
Josh
No,
is
no,
not
no.
with them anymore, but Justin Cornett is.
Right, and his wife is some superstar, Liberty superstar.
uh, yeah, she was on the Joe campaign.
Aaron Byrne. Aaron
No,
Burr.
no, that was
Uh,
for
Aaron Davis.
no, that's no, she's Virginia.
She's in Virginia.
Damn it.
I can see her.
All right, I'm going to look it up because we don't want to not call out our friends.
Special taxes on pads, tampons, and condoms.
Oh,
Wow.
oh, all right. So red pad
Oh,
tax,
Louisiana.
Kenna Porter.
Kenna Porter. That's it.
Yes, and I also misstated that they are married. They don't need a
No.
state justification for their relationship.
That's right.
They're not.
But yeah, so all right, we should follow up with Justin on that because that would make a lot of sense.
Yep. Rock it out, buddy.
Because he's well into the legislature and knows a lot,
Right.
So
Yeah, no,
He
for
would be the
sure.
one.
So Heidi raises a great point. That is another common bullshit tax. In fact,
Mhm.
I mean, most of the ones I've seen, I've never seen condoms before. I've always seen it mentioned on really
You've
only
never
things
seen
bought by
condoms
women.
before? Weird. Sorry.
Well, I tell you, like most kids, I grew up with the idea of, or most men, I grew up with the idea. I'm like, a condom's just not going to feel good. It's not going to feel comfortable. And finally, I had a sex ed teacher who said, here's what you do. When you're going to be in a situation where you need a condom, put on 2 at the beginning of the day and then take 1 off before sex and you'll feel fresh. That's just science, right?
Science.
Yeah, but this grocery tax is terrible. But I'm circling back, stepping
Circle
up.
back.
Income tax is the worst.
Science.
And we're talking about that in the context of the SCOTUS ruling. If they got rid of income tax, they would have to implement the fair tax, in my opinion, which they could do. The fair tax, for people who aren't familiar with it, fairtax.org. It's essentially a national sales tax
Yeah.
on everything that you spend over $50,000 in the course of a year. So people who only spend $40,000 a year won't pay any taxes. In fact, they'll get money back from the government. Essentially, the government pays you up to $4,000 a month. They pay you $4,000 a month, and you get that covers a lot of your spending. So that most of that is a tax rebate on the money that you spend. But if you spend months, you just get to keep the money. It's called the prebate. Anyway, it's essentially a big sales tax. So if we got rid of income tax, the government wouldn't be impossible to get a larger sales tax passed. And in fact, the fair tax is proposed every year, and it gets about 80 votes. It used to be your guy, Dave, out of Georgia.
John Linder. John Linder was the
fair tax guy.
Fair tax guy in the House, and then Neil Bortz, the former radio guy, was one of the big proponents of that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So it's interesting, this thing. I mean, it would be a big change in how we collect taxes, but I'm not naive enough to think it means we're going to pay less taxes.
No, I mean, I think that they're going to come up with all different kinds of ways to augment the revenue if they got it.
It will be interesting
Stupid ways.
if the Supreme Court really gets in there and makes a decision on this, because
I will say if the Supreme Court guts the tax code, you will see pressure like never before on President Biden to expand the court and new justices.
Yeah, I mean, for
Like
sure,
6 new justices or something along those lines.
But he's only got by the time their ruling comes into effect, election's going to be over.
Yeah, but he's got a Democratic Senate, so he could force it through. he could nominate a slate of candidates and get it through the Senate, and that's done. That's a fait accompli right then. I mean, that's essentially what Trump had. I mean, he had a
Right.
Republican Senate, and he could get those changes through. Um, I think anything like if you take away, like, I will tell you, the most addictive drug in the world is money in
Power.
the hands of politicians. You threaten to take that money away from them, they have the worst DTs.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. We'll see what happens. You think that somehow the Supreme Court is not going to rule that?
I think they're gonna go. They're gonna gut something.
Maybe a very narrow decision.
It's probably a narrow decision. I don't know that they're gonna invite that kind of heat. Now, if it was Trump in the White House or the Republicans had a Senate majority, I think they might be a little bit more aggressive, knowing that they've got their flank covered.
Right. Well, it's interesting. I mean, we're lucky to have Dr. Moulton online here. Uh, it is. Yeah, I'm going to reread it now that he suggested that it means something else.
I mean, it's
He-
about realized capital gains on whether you're repatriating money and things like that. But they're at least what some people are saying is that the Supreme Court could go much further if they wanted to on this case.
right.
Talking about income, could they rule that income, uh, while it was put into the 16th Amendment?
Right. Well, you know what
That
though? As I'm reading, so I'm reading the Mother Jones article right now. Is that and it says that it's trying to hamstring Congress' ability to tax capital instead of wealth taxes, which is an interesting thing and different from what I said because that is an interesting thing. So apparently, uh, this is the principle behind Biden's proposed billionaire minimum income tax.
Yeah.
Because obviously billionaires,
that's never going to pass. But
right, don't have $1 billion.
Yeah.
And so you have to tax things that they don't have. That they're speculative. You could force somebody to sell property so that they could pay their taxes. That seems a little crazy to me.
yeah,
All right, there's other news stories going on.
yeah. AJ, what's your news story?
Oh, well, you know me, always full of good news and wholesome content. Um, Something that's not about Tennessee, actually. This week, we learned of a woman named Brittany Watts of Warren, Ohio. She went to the hospital twice concerning her unborn baby. She was informed that she was miscarrying and her baby was not viable. She was sent home to miscarry, which most people are sent home to miscarry. If you're not in active danger, they will send your ass home. Um, she Let's see, the fetus was only 22 weeks gestation when Watts miscarried into the toilet after her water broke. And when she flushed the remains, these clogged the pipes. A forensic pathologist testified that an autopsy found that the fetus was not injured and that it died before passing through the birth canal. Instead of being able to grieve, Watts was arrested. Now, she was arrested for abuse of a corpse.
Wow.
What are we supposed to do with miscarried tissues? Now, what they don't tell you is the lawmakers that are so very concerned about this abuse of a corpse had no idea that women are sent home to miscarry. You don't normally miscarry in the hospital unless you are actively in danger. And lots of miscarriages happen in the toilet. No, it is not a pretty business. Giving birth rarely is. Giving birth to death is even worse. And 18 years ago, I had a miscarriage on the toilet. That's how common this is. You can probably talk to your wives, and they know someone who has if they haven't experienced it themselves. This is one of those things that we all know about.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, the men that make the laws, they don't listen to us, so they are not paying attention. She is being charged with abuse of a corpse. She should be able to be home, resting, grieving.
Yep.
I don't understand how we have come to this. And I know that I've talked about this before. I've talked about how Roe v. Wade, that being overturned, set everything into motion that we are dealing with now. As far as I'm concerned, that is the exact reason that the Attorney General was able to get private medical records from fucking Vanderbilt. We're not talking about some little county hospital. We're talking about Vanderbilt, y'all.
Yep.
It's this shit right here. And we're going to see more of this. More women are going to be charged. And it's a matter of time before a woman has miscarried and she's going to be charged with murder. It's a matter of time. So far, especially like in Tennessee and whatnot, they've gone after the providers. So the providers have just disappeared from rural America. It is so it is so hard to find an OB right now.
Yep.
And then when they can't stay at the hospital because they're miscarrying, because the baby's dead, there's nothing to save except the woman, that whole ass person that existed before the baby, before the fetus, before any of this other things were going on. She was a human being first.
Yep.
You know what's weird? I'm a woman, right? I once started out as a baby. So when I grew up, did I lose value as I grew up? Do I have less value now because I don't have a uterus to carry back? Like, these are the questions that we're going to need to answer, folks, because if we're heading towards Handmaid's Tale, anyone that's read it, you know that these are the questions that are going to have to be answered.
Yep.
Because you're going to have to figure out what to tell us. You're going to have to figure out a way to separate us, a way to categorize. Because what are we doing?
Yes. There is
You-
there's this insane desire by some men to tell women what they should do. And it's just, I can't imagine where the hell it comes from. I mean, is it societal? Do we keep teaching it by example? Because if that's true, then I've got some hope for us, because it seems like we're doing better. We're not doing great. We're doing better than when I was a kid, in terms of, allowing women to control their bodies. Like I said, it's not perfect.
I like the way that you said allowing women to. That is a problem.
It is.
We shouldn't be allowing anybody. Like, we should all be equal.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be like 108 years before the gender gap is closed between pay scale, let alone it's I don't know that it's better, Dan. It's definitely not better than when I was growing up. When I was growing up, we had options. Just a few
Options
years ago, we
They're
had options.
closing. Yeah, they're closing up a lot of options now.
well, certainly in terms of reproductive choice and stuff like that. Like I think of, sort of the Me Too movement and the things that changed. I hope that's not going backwards, but I am a man, so I wouldn't know.
Who knows? I mean, what we've
Maybe it does.
seen over the last half dozen years, especially, just the sheer regression in a lot of people's thinking that where when we were kids, yeah, there were things that were better because maybe not on the LGBTQ front, but when it came to women's rights and things like that, being able to control their bodies, getting information about sexual education and things like that
Hmm.
were a lot easier than they're becoming now, because we've got people that are just right now we've got this weird juxtaposition where we're being ruled by people who come from a certain generation which thinks that controlling women's bodies is okay, and they're writing
What's
those laws.
weird, are they not the same generation that had the women in the streets fighting for the rights back in the? Because, okay, in my lifetime, we've
They're
always had
old. They
Roe v.
forget
Wade.
shit.
Did they just completely forget that they were there? I mean, is that not how they won their offices to begin with, were to be
Sure.
active? Like, I'm so mind blown by how these people have existed, and they'll say, "Well, I've been in the government since 1960." Well, have you fucking learned anything? Have you learned a damn thing? Just
Yeah.
one. Just show me one thing you've done that has been positive for anybody else.
They
It
may
is
have learned
interesting to think that ERA failed, right? I guess we're just hitting the 50th anniversary. We're coming up to the 50th anniversary
right
of
around
that.
that, yeah.
It's pretty insane that could have happened. I I do know, right? There are places where people say men and women can't do the same jobs. They shouldn't get paid the same amount, stuff like that. I think that most people would say there are some places where that makes sense. You know, a great example is firemen. They showed, the general difference in terms of how quickly can somebody carry a 200-pound body out of a building. Men are better at that. On the other hand, if it's about assessing what's wrong with them and being in the ER or in the ambulance or anything like that, there's no reason to have any gender inequality there. And it's reasonable to say when people suspect that happens, it's a concern. I mean, it's something that people have to talk about. Say, this company is not one where women are valued equally.
Do you
Yeah.
know why I go by AJ?
Yes,
I do.
but tell the audience.
So I was in nursing school and we had 3 men in my class, and it was a class of like 23 people, very small. So we were all getting together our resumes and sending them out to all of these different prospective places because we were like 6 weeks from graduating. We're like so close. And I noticed that the men kept getting all of the interviews. Like every single place they sent a resume to, they were getting a call back. And I'm like, what? And I mean, we're all brand new nurses. There's not really a hierarchy here. And I'm like, huh. Thankfully, my mommy gave me a name that allows me to go by my initials. So I tried it just to see what would happen. And I got lots of interviews. And some of them I could email them back and just be like, "Oh, thank you so much. Yes, absolutely. We'll meet at, 2:30 on Tuesday or whatever." And they were very surprised when some
Hmm.
chick walked into their interview. "Oh, hi, ma'am. What are you doing here?" I was like, "I believe I'm your 2:15 interview," or, whatever. They didn't realize they were gonna interview a chick. So they were thrown off guard, which honestly, I mean, worked out really well for me. I landed a couple of different positions that I probably wouldn't have otherwise, because I'm not sure if Amanda would have even gotten the interview that AJ got. Isn't that ridiculous?
It is
It's
ridiculous.
super crazy. I mean,
Yeah.
the thing that bothers me about it is why aren't there uh why isn't this a business model? I know that I can get cheaper employees because women are being discriminated against. Why shouldn't I hire women? It'll give me a business advantage because, whatever the market is, market will bear, etc. But I guess the first answer is it makes you a douchebag to do that. But
Absolutely. It's like, oh, that's awful.
right.
Now, to hire
Well,
women to offer women a comparable salary to their male counterparts to get that experience over to your
right.
business.
Right. Exactly. Right.
Poach the best.
Right.
That's
I mean,
how I would do it.
well, it's interesting. I mean, you and I are in fields where, well, I mean, for that matter, AJ, you sort of are too. Uh, people quit to get raises, essentially. If you know that another place needs you and there's a shortage in your line of work, it makes sense to say, okay, I'm done here. I'm moving to this hospital or this business company or something like that.
Hmm.
And I haven't done it just for the money, but every time that I've done it, I thought it's going to be nice to make more money.
Mhm.
And so, if you could build a business where absolutely hire interesting information, Heidi. Right. Uh, it doesn't translate into the executive branches, right? WNBA has no male executives. I made that up. I have no idea. Um, I don't know. I'm just adding on to Heidi's point. But I'm sure that there are at least 3 men in executive positions in the WNBA. And that would be crazy. Are you looking it up? Good. I'll fill.
I'm trying to figure it out. 'Cause I think, I mean, the teams are owned by their NBA counterparts, I believe.
Right.
So,
So,
I
well,
mean, effectively, that the lack of
right.
female leadership in NBA teams would translate to WNBA.
Right.
Although I think, maybe GMs and
Yeah, I'm looking at the executive committee right now. Oh, this is the WNBPA. I don't even know what the hell that is.
that's the Players Association.
National Basketball
The
Players
union.
Association. Okay. So that one is run by women entirely
That would make sense.
because it's gonna be all
Yay.
I
former
think
players.
the new professional hockey league for women is pretty much women run.
Okay, here.
Uh-oh.
Well, you're just gonna have to let me share it because
All right.
this comes to everything that we're talking about.
Uh-oh.
We've talked about so many things.
Jonathan Kolb named 2023 WNBA Executive of the Year.
Profoundly humbled. Well, yeah.
It's crazy.
That is crazy.
All right. So we know that's bullshit.
Yeah.
Tennessee sucks.
Wow.
Fight the
Tennessee
power.
sucks.
Tennessee sucks. So,
What is your best anti-Tennessee song? Like when you want to, complain about the government. I go to Fight the Power a lot, not because it's
Anti-Tennessee.
or fight the government, or I could see you probably singing Rocky Mountain.
I don't know.
What's the
Rocky High is that's
Rocky
Denver.
High, right? You could be singing Rocky Mountain High on a daily basis.
I have been singing Rocky Mountain High. Every time something pisses me off in Tennessee, we'll be going down the road. I'm like, Rocky Mountain High, motherfuckers. Like, it is so bad.
He was born in the summer of his 27th year, coming home to a place he'd never been before.
I love it.
It's
Now,
great.
I guess my anti-Tennessee song would be like, I don't know, "Killing in the Name of" with Rage Against the Machine.
What was Arrested
That's
Development song
fantastic.
about Tennessee?
Say that again?
Arrested Development song about Tennessee. Not the TV show, the band.
The band, they wrote Rocky Top.
Oh.
Oh, speaking of, I wore this specifically for y'all.
That's
This
good.
is the only sports memorabilia bullshit thing I have.
Yeah, so speaking of sports, I know
yeah.
AJ's gonna be all over this one.
Of course.
National championship pairings have been set. Alabama makes the college football playoff despite having a loss, while the university or Florida State University is kept out despite having an undefeated record. We've got what is it? Dan's Texas, all champs in the playoff.
It's Texas.
Playing Washington, and Alabama will be playing Michigan in the 1-4 matchup.
Yeah, Alabama's going to kick Michigan's ass.
I don't know. Michigan's been very resilient this year. I don't trust Big 12 teams. I wouldn't wager on this game at all.
Yeah,
but they've been very resilient with the whole Jim Harbaugh thing. It's kind of that world type.
there's something to that. But Michigan did beat Ohio State.
They did,
and one of the things I say is that if you're going to be in the playoffs, you had to beat a great team. Florida State didn't even play a great team. They played LSU.
They
at
beat
the beginning
the
of the
doors
season.
off of LSU.
I would say
40,
not as much as
45.
say any of the other championship teams won their game by. I think it was 45
to 22,
35
24,
45 34,
24,
45 24. Yeah. So
it was a significant beating of the guy that they everyone's saying
I'm
is
gonna say.
the presumptive, um, the presumptive Heisman nominee, presumptive Heisman winner in LSU. Um,
yeah, but people don't say that now.
oh no, I think he is going to win the LSU guy. I think he's going to win the.
No, it's going to be that USC guy, Clarence Thomas, or whatever his name
Oh,
was.
Caleb will.
Caleb Williams. Yeah.
Oh, what'd you? Oh,
Okay, question. Heisman, like that's a trophy,
yeah,
right?
Heisman is
Okay.
trophy.
Yeah.
One of the
That's the
funniest skits.
Heisman pose
Did,
that's on the
did,
trophy,
one of the
named after
funniest,
John Heisman.
Oh,
one
I
of the
thought you were
funniest
just being
skits
weird, man.
No, no, no. It's you. You look like this, and you hold the
yeah,
football here.
John's
Well, hang on. Yeah, a little bit.
Like
It's not going to
like
work.
that.
yeah.
Exactly.
But
Okay.
one of the funniest
Did
skits
anybody
on
get a screenshot of
Saturday Night
that?
Live
Alien fingers.
was the year that Doug Flutie won the Heisman, based off that basically just that one play. It was a good quarterback. Um,
Yeah.
uh, where they beat Miami in the last second.
Also,
And they,
I think Bo Nix has a good shot at the Heisman too.
I mean, they lost twice to Washington. I don't know. I mean, but uh, Rich Hall was the guest on Saturday Night Live, and he was being interviewed as Doug Flutie,
Yeah.
and he was getting tired of the questions about that play. And Desmond Tutu was the other guest in that skit, the guy playing Desmond Tutu. And
Yeah.
Desmond Tutu picks up the trophy. He's like backstage with it, and he like breaks the arm off of it. And he's like trying to figure out what to do with this statue, and he like has a blowtorch and just basically melts the trophy down. It's hilarious.
The-
But yeah, that was
I
one
mean,
of the funnier skits on Saturday Night Live. I like that one.
the idea that it's Eddie Murphy too,
Yeah.
right? As Desmond Tutu. In fact, we've got a quick shot of it right here.
Oh, hold on a sec.
And I'm going to come up with a tough question for everybody, right? Already, you're right. It's pretty funny.
It's just a
Who's the-
melted hunk of trophy.
Who's the guy in the middle? I know. Heidi's going to get this.
Who
Maybe.
is the guy in the middle? Is it? That isn't like a young Kevin Nealon, is it?
No. I'll give you a hint. My name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father.
Is that Mandy
Prepare.
Patinkin?
No, this is not Mandy Patinkin, but it's the other guy on the other end of that statement. The six-fingered man.
The Six Finger Man. Okay, yeah, I can't remember what his name.
Christopher Guest,
Okay,
who, of course, is obviously in the Spinal Tap and
Yep.
all the other movies that those guys made. The Break Like the Wind and
Mighty Wind. Yeah,
the Mighty Wind and Waiting for Guffman and those
Yeah.
other ones.
Mighty Wind is a fabulous movie. If you've never seen the Mighty Wind, go watch that movie. That is hilarious.
Yeah,
One of my favorite movies of all time.
it's fantastic, and the music's superb.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I don't
for
know if you know,
parody movie.
the music was written by Michael McKean and his wife, who something O'Toole, Anna and
Margaret, I think.
Margaret O'Toole, maybe. But most people know her as Clark Kent's mom on Smallville.
Yeah.
All right. Do we need
All
to
right.
do the quiz, or do we have time for another story?
You can do another story while I get the quiz set up.
You know what? The story I'm not going to do. I'm just going to put in people's ear is how Dave suppresses the rest of us, keeps us in small little boxes while dominating the screen by himself. Now look at that. You call that a beard? That's not a
That
beard.
is not a beard, no. All right.
What are you doing? Oh, but so last thing I'm going to say is, we talked about the stupidity of the
There we go.
man being executive of the year for the WNBA. One of the stories that Dave and I talked about doing earlier was Financial Times, FT.com, has just listed their 25 most influential women of 2023. I am embarrassed to say that I know less than half of them. I consider myself pretty well read. Um, and the ones that I do know, 4 of the 5 of them are entertainers. So
Mm.
educate yourself. Go to ft.com. Look for the 25 most influential women of 2023.
Check it out. It's better than SI's athlete or sportsman of the year.
Yeah, which is
Yeah,
prime.
it's Deion
Right.
Sanders.
Aw.
That's ridiculous. All right, so our context clues this week. We got the COP28 summit in the United Arab Emirates. Rosalind and Jimmy Carter,
Oh.
and it looks like smoking on a beach.
No. This is maybe it's smoking. I thought that was from a story I saw about beaches, but they have cigarettes featured there. So creepy. So
Yeah.
wow.
All right, question number one. Which one of America's most well-known Christmas trees toppled over in gusty winds this week? Where did this occur?
I have no
In
idea.
New York City, Washington, D.C., Boston, or Chicago? I don't think they put the New York City tree up yet.
I think it went up this week.
So it came down very quickly.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the thing is that you would expect that would happen
That would-
once.
yeah.
Boston doesn't really have a well-known Christmas tree. I don't think Chicago does either.
DC
So
does
it's-
a bunch of Christmas trees. There's one main one, but I don't know that they've gotten that one.
Right.
Oh yeah, I
I
guess
mean, the one at the White House is the big DC
yeah.
tree.
I'm so behind. I'm still thinking it's like November at this point. And,
Yep.
yeah.
I mean,
tree's up.
as the county crows would tell you, it's a long November, but
It's much
it's
longer.
now December.
Yes.
So it's either got to be New York City or DC.
Yeah.
AJ, pick a city. Oh wait,
Mm.
Yeah. What?
Heidi said it was Rockefeller, so New York City.
I was like, let's ask Heidi before we ask me.
There we go.
Let's see.
Thank you, Heidi.
Was it a West Virginia tree?
Oh wait, don't thank her yet. We don't know if it's right.
No.
Oh,
It was the National Christmas Tree in Washington D.C.
Did I jinx
Cut
it?
down by high winds.
I mean, we knew that. We were here.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. We should have known this,
Yep.
but I didn't.
Y'all are fired.
I was really busy
So
this week. I didn't
it's
watch a lot.
interesting now. Is DC your national news channel or your Metro news channel?
Unfortunately.
Well, I mean, it's better than if freaking. I'm trying to think of a small city near you.
Actually, I watch on TikTok. There's the news out of Wheeling, West Virginia. Very pretty girl that does the news there.
But they're not a
years
network
old.
affiliate or anything.
No, they're It's actually a dual affiliate in Wheeling. It's like CBS and I want to say CBS and ABC. If you do
Interesting.
the news for yeah, there's a couple dual affiliates in West Virginia when I was studying some of the news stuff. But I'd much rather watch small town news than the dumpster fire of the district.
I mean, it would be nice to hear small town. So that is a good point.
Yeah. All right. Question number 2.
This one I know.
Day this week was dedicated to volunteering, donating, and doing good for others. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday.
I mean, Tuesday was Giving Tuesday,
Tuesday.
but I mean, I don't think many people do volunteering. I think they give money.
Yeah.
All right, but I say Tuesday. It'd be funny if like Giving Tuesday and Volunteering Day is different. It's Volunteering Thursday.
Hey, who knows? Anybody in the all right, we'll go Tuesday. Correct. A few days after Black
Yay.
Friday, where millions of people gorge themselves on they're not really deals. Just understand that they've jacked up the price before holiday, then lower it,
Turn it down.
and then lower it down and say, "Oh, we're taking 50% off the price." Well, you're doubling.
I think there is also like a clearance element to it,
Sure.
and that there's stuff they want to get rid of because I do think that you can find deals, but
Some
those
deals.
deals will not only be there Black Friday; they'll be there all the rest of the season.
And towards the end of the year, when you get closer to the end of the year and taxes, and especially if you have like equipment and inventory taxes,
Right? Exactly.
you'll get some good deals. So,
Yeah.
all right, question number 3: which tech leader met with Israel's president this week? Elon
I've-
Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, Jeff Bezos, or Tim Cook?
It was Elon, and I wish he would go away.
Is that really true? He met with Bibi? No, Bibi's prime minister.
Yes. Yes.
All right. If AJ says it, I believe it. That's crazy shit to me,
I
though.
mean,
Was he
all I know
apologize?
about Elon Musk is he told all of his advertisers,
See, they thought that that was part of the apology tour, and actually what he said was, "Fuck off,"
"Yeah,
to
go
all
fuck yourself," to all of
because
his advertisers.
that Twitter's going to die.
Yeah. Y'all should all get on Threads.
Yes.
Yeah, this show broadcasts to Twitter, but I don't invest outside of sports. I don't really invest in Twitter at all. Like
Yeah.
the bandwidth there.
I used it to vote on The Voice like 10 years ago.
Well, there you go. So, yeah, Elon Musk visited Israel on Monday, meeting the country's leaders as he tried to calm the outrage caused by his endorsement of anti-Semitic post on his social media platform X.
Yeah. I mean,
Interesting.
that one really was, I think that is the bellwether,
Yeah,
right? Because the president left Twitter at that point. Most of the Democratic representatives, although they're not as good at actually doing it as the president is, and a lot of businesses.
yeah,
The president, I tell you what's the one other thing I'll say that's interesting right now is if you get on Threads early, you can become friends with people who are among the early adopters, who are celebrities or whatever.
yeah.
And so I now have an amazing relationship with both the Threads lead developer, vice president of like new technology for Microsoft, and Josh Gad, which is just weird. But
I've got
because
a
of
great relationship with AJ on Threads.
yeah,
That's my celebrity.
yeah.
Aw.
So maybe the show needs a Threads uh, account, Dave.
Yeah, I mean, I've got an Instagram account that again I don't do a whole lot with. I'm reaching my bandwidth when it comes to social media. Like I'm just
Fair
I
enough.
get
it's
it.
hard managing all of these social media accounts. All right,
It
so
is.
question number 4: tribute events were held for former First Lady Rosalind Carter this week. In which state? Well,
Better be Georgia.
it better be Georgia, where they messed up. Texas, Virginia, California, or Georgia.
George.
The devil was in a bind because he was way behind, willing to make a deal.
Yep, 3 days of tributes took place across Georgia for Rosalind Carter, state where she grew up alongside her husband, former President Jimmy Carter. She died on November 19th at the age of 96. So
That's
sad.
a good run.
We talked before the show about Jimmy Carter not looking fantastic. We talked a little in the show too. Um, yeah, if you're on YouTube, check out some of those hospice nurse. It really does kind of put your mind at ease when it comes to end of life care and end of life decisions and things like
Mhm.
that. Uh, it's better to kind of learn that stuff now than in the heat of a loved one being in hospice care and trying to make those decisions then. So, um, yeah, not West Virginia, not West Virginia. I don't think there's been a president from West Virginia. So
No.
not expecting that. Question number 5, which company said it will be deleting accounts that have been inactive for at least 2 years? Apple, Instagram, Google, or Uber?
Google.
It's the G.
It's the G money.
Yep.
Ain't nothing but a G thing, baby.
Baby.
Um, Google this week is beginning to delete inactive accounts to prevent security risks. All right.
Makes some sense.
Yeah. Question number 6. Which type of recalled food mistakenly distributed to several large retailers? Oopsies. Lettuce, milk, fruit, or beef?
Um, I
I
don't
think
know
it's
this one.
all right. I'm going to go with whatever AJ says or the fan.
Heidi.
Which
For
one?
some reason, I heard something. I thought I heard something like this. I'm looking at the picture. I wonder if it's lettuce.
Heidi says milk, maybe.
I don't think that's going to be it because milk is distributed in such a local level.
Yeah.
Um, but it does look like fruit in the middle.
It does look like fruit in the middle.
James says Tyson, West Virginia chicken, which
I mean, sometimes you get that chicken gets into some of that fentanyl.
yep, yep. But it's there's no beef. Chicken is not beef, and that's our only choice.
Yeah, I think it's my guess is fruit.
All right, let's
fruit,
go fruit.
fruit. Yes.
Nice
Yay.
job.
Hey.
Good job.
Several
Come
large
on.
retailers in the United States, including Publix or Publix, as I called it, Walmart and
I
Aldi,
think it's pronounced
repeatedly
Publix.
called fruit. The FDA warned Tuesday batches of non-organic peaches, plums, and nectarines have been linked with a listeria outbreak. Fun times to spend on the toilet.
Have you ever heard of Bluebell ice cream?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's this. Do they sell it in Tennessee?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's expanded. Yeah.
Yeah. So it used to be only Texas for years. I don't have it in Maryland yet. I've been looking, but I guess it was 3 years ago. They had a huge wisteria outbreak at the Bluebell factory,
I
and
remember this.
they were going to have to, shut it down, clean out all the tanks and stuff like that. People drove up with buckets because they wanted the wisteria ice cream.
Jesus, that's desperation right there. My God.
Oh my gosh. Give it to him. Just give it to him. Shit.
Yeah.
Let him have it.
Sometimes you got to throw some chlorine in the gene pool, you know?
Just absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Question number 7. Which country said it will ban smoking on beaches and in public parks?
That's what our picture was.
Yeah, that's the picture was.
Now, what's interesting about it is that
Let's
if
go
you
up.
want to exactly. Let's see
Go
if
up.
there's context clues here. I
Let's see
seem
the
to recall
Rita
this
sign.
sign at the bottom that looked like it was in English. We'll see in a second.
Go faster.
Yeah, it says public parking. Oh, wait,
No, no,
plus non. Yeah.
Oh,
So
France?
France. Yep.
I was thinking it was France because Charlie was like, oh, they are going to piss off some more French people.
Yep.
Don't they know better?
Yep.
Wow. So we got it. Based on the context clues, they do work sometimes. France will ban smoking on beaches and in public parks, and the country's government aims to create a tobacco-free generation by 2032, which means tobacco use will skyrocket.
Well, what's interesting is, I mean, it has it here, right? I mean, nobody smokes anymore here.
They just do other things. Well, they have many other things at their disposal now.
Right. Well, but I mean, they're not putting anything addictive into the cannabis or the alcohol compared to when they deliberately added nicotine to cigarettes.
Yep.
Mm.
Make you addicts. I was thinking though, so this is a little far off topic, but supposedly next year is the last year that DirecTV will be available. And what's going to happen is you will only be able to get the games directly from the NFL. So they will take over what YouTube has for the next 2 years.
Who's doing this?
The NFL.
Oh, the NFL is taken away from YouTube, huh?
It is essentially the contract won't be renewed. And what they've been setting up is that then they will sell their own advertising instead of having to pay the network for it.
Wow.
And because what's super crazy about it, thank you, Heidi, for that tip. I actually have it in a window behind recording. So, but you can totally tell us the score. I lost track of what I was saying.
27-19. The Packers.
Oh,
Oh, yeah. Okay, they're showing a highlight.
what was I just talking about?
Oh, the NFL Sunday Ticket going to.
Oh, anyway, so
Oh.
yeah. So they're going to have the balls to sell you Sunday Ticket, but then also make you watch advertising while they're making you pay for it. It's just
Yeah.
crazy. But the price is apparently pretty reasonable. It's $100 for a year.
So my hope is that with them taking it over, that you can have options instead of listening to the national, like CBS, ABC,
Right.
Fox
Like-
crew doing the game, that you could patch in the radio feed of your local announcers to
Yeah,
call
yeah.
the game. I would much rather. be able to watch a Giants game with Bob Papa or the Bills with their local announcers, because I
Yeah.
think that makes it a much better game, much better product, especially if you're out of market for some of that stuff.
Yeah, I agree. Because we get that for basketball a lot.
Yeah.
And sometimes for hockey, you'll get that.
For hockey, we get if you either subscribe to ESPN or whatever the center ice package,
Channel.
you get the local broadcasts, and the only ones that you have to
Right.
that you get the national group for is whenever they're on TNT or ESPN.
Yeah.
But um, I'd much rather watch a Sabres game, even though they're a dumpster fire, uh, called by my guys than
Yeah.
watching the Bruins announcers call a game, because I hate the Bruins announcers. They're just
Well, not to mention the fact that they're insufferable this year because the team's crazy.
yeah, yeah.
Even that losing streak was like it seemed like they did that well.
Yeah.
Um, all right, let's keep going.
All right, question number 8. Which type of structure recently collapsed in India, trapping dozens of workers? Tunnel, mall, hospital, or stadium? I
I
know
think
this
it's
one because my wife and I talked about this, about
I
how
think it's a tunnel.
it was a tunnel.
Yeah.
They were trapped for
It's a big hole in the context clue kind of.
16 days. They were trapped there. They were able to get a small tunnel to the workers so they could feed in both air and food and water and stuff
Yeah.
into them. But 16 days stuck. That had to start stinking because they had to go bathroom somewhere.
Yep.
They had
Yep.
to, and no showers. No, there must have been some massive funk going on there.
Yeah. I mean,
Grand Funk Railroad.
we've had things like this, many things like this in the United States,
Sure.
not in tunnels usually, but out in West Virginia in the coal
Mining.
mine.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sago mine disaster launched Joe Manchin's national political career.
And how long were those guys in?
Well, that was more that they all died.
Oh,
But he held the
big coal accountable.
Blankenship, Don Blankenship, the owner of the mine, accountable, and really kind of launched his career being the last lone Democrat in the state of West Virginia.
Interesting.
All right, question number 9. Where was the Global COP28 climate summit being held? I said that earlier, and
You
it's
did.
actually the context clue was on the sign there. It's the choices are New York, Dubai, Paris, or Tokyo, and the winner is
Bye, bye, bye.
yes, United Arab Emirates, one of the largest producers of fossil fuels in the world, hosting the climate summit. The president of the climate summit says that uh, fossil fuels are not responsible, that they shouldn't do anything with fossil fuels. Yeah, it's an interesting juxtaposition of what's going on.
There's there is an interesting thing. Rowan Atkinson, who is a comedian,
Yep.
but also a Cambridge, England electrical engineer, but also a lover of cars, wrote a very interesting editorial where he said, "Look, we are at the end of the cheap electric cars. Our capacity to do more batteries isn't there. The electrical infrastructure isn't coming along, blah, 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 blah,
We
blah.
need nuclear cars.
We need something else." And it's interesting because,
Bring back
you
the
know,
steam engine.
well, I will say, there is a hydrogen-based car. There are
Yeah.
2 hydrogen-based cars out there. And I like that because, there's a really good source of hydrogen right offshore. Anyway, those are my thoughts.
Oh, the Packers win. All right.
Wow.
Sending Taylor Swift swiftly home, sadly.
Yeah, well, I don't know if you've been following. She's been getting a lot of shit for Travis's bad play.
His lack of performance on the field. Which you know what? The dude's getting older.
Exactly. He's 34.
Yeah.
Players that age get worse as they get as the season progresses. They get more tired.
Exactly.
Bodies don't
And
bounce back.
and damn it, let the man be happy. I hate
Exactly.
this type of thing. Like it happened with Tony Romo and Jessica Simpson.
Yes.
Where they really went after Jessica Simpson. Every time Tony Romo had a bad game, which that happened. It was Tony Romo.
Right.
Um, and like Tony Romo went with her on a 2-day beach vacation to Mexico during their
I
bye
remember
week,
that.
and the people just lost their damn minds. And it's like
Yeah.
people deserve to have the happiness in their life, and
Yeah.
whether it's a celebrity or whether it's a cheerleader or whether it's whatever,
Right.
I don't care. Let them have the happiness in their life. They
Yep.
deserve it.
Yep.
Like
Yep.
there's
Yep.
you whether you're jealous that Taylor Swift is dating somebody or Jason Kelsey is dating someone, that's a
Travis Kelce.
or Travis Kelsey. The other Kelsey
Yeah.
is the sexiest, one of the sexiest men alive. Is what
That's Jason.
yeah. Um, but yeah, they deserve happiness. They're human beings just like us. Stop treating them like shit because
Right.
your favorite football player is not performing like he used to. That happens.
Yes.
Yeah, it's not because I mean, yeah,
Right.
you can say, well, he went to Argentina for a concert. Maybe that does have some impact on his play, but he was also on a bye week. Let
Yeah.
him have his happiness.
I agree.
All right.
Agree.
Question number 10 for 9 out of 10 week. Which state is revising its planned 2024 license plate design to following hundreds of complaints? Oh, I wonder how bad this one got. Hawaii, Nevada, Pennsylvania, or Kansas?
I have no idea.
I don't either. I don't think it would. If it was Pennsylvania, I probably would have heard something.
Yeah. So I'm guessing the fact that we didn't hear anything
It's
means.
either Nevada or Kansas.
Oh, I was going to say Hawaii or Kansas, but I
Oh,
think if it were Nevada, our good friend Tim Hagen would have posted something.
It's true.
hmm.
My vote is Kansas. You know what? And I'm looking at the license plate. Blue and yellow feels Kansas to me.
Yeah. Although blue and yellow sands of
Yeah.
Hawaii.
Dr. Moulton, is it Pennsylvania? Oh,
James says West Virginia or Pennsylvania.
no, you would know. It's not West Virginia. It's not a
No, it's not.
choice. And Dave would know if it were West Virginia.
No, because I don't pay attention to the state news around here.
All
I
right.
do. Yeah, I do.
I mean, it looks like it's a yellow background state plate. And
Yeah,
that's not Pennsylvania, and it's not Hawaii.
let's go. Yeah, let's go Kansas.
All right.
Carry on, my wayward sons. Correct.
Yeah.
Good job.
One of the major criticisms of the proposed 2024 license plate design is the color scheme, which many are saying it resembled those of other states. And the University of Missouri.
Mhm.
That makes sense.
Pretty funny.
Kansas hates Missouri. All right.
So-
So we got 9 out of 10. Not bad. I still think FSU got hosed, even though they lost their quarterback. It's not the first time that a team has lost their quarterback. Hell, Georgia won the national title. They didn't go to the playoff with the quarterback that started the season.
Right, but they also beat a lot of good teams on the way. And even in beating Louisville, FSU didn't beat a good team. You know, the only team that you've got is you could say when we had our superstar quarterback, we beat LSU.
Yeah, I still think that you can't ask a team, especially the way that you got the playoffs constructed. You can't ask a team to have a perfect season and then not reward them for their perfect season.
But
They
you could never do that because there are 5 Power 5 conferences.
But we didn't have 5 or 4 undefeated teams.
We didn't have 4 undefeated teams, but if we'd had 5 undefeated teams,
Then
we would
yeah,
say,
then okay, somebody's gonna get
but
left out.
but exactly. So somebody has to be left out. It should be the weakest conference.
I mean, if you're going to talk about conference strength, the only other conference that's actually won more than one national title is the ACC. The only conference that's had more than one.
Texas has won more than one national title.
No. I'm talking about the CFP, the playoff.
Oh, okay.
From the top from 2014 when it started. Only one non ACC or SEC team has won the title. Now is the first year with Ohio State. But ACC has had more participants in the finals than all the other Power Five conferences besides the SEC
But not
combined.
this year. I'm not talking about making them the champion of
Well, if
all-time
you're going to
college
say that
football.
Alabama deserves it based off their reputation from prior years, then
I'm not saying they deserve it off. No, I've not heard anybody make that argument.
I
Alabama deserves it because they beat Georgia.
Alabama was a Hail Mary fling from their quarterback on a 4th and 30 play in the Auburn game from not even making making the national title.
No,
They
no.
did not look good in many games this season, including against your Texas Longhorns. They did not look good against the South Florida. They didn't,
Well, hang on. Texas beat them by 10 points, but they didn't shellac them.
they didn't look good in that game at all, and it led to the benching of this magical quarterback. Um, the reason why FSU is being told to stay home, and I don't know. I mean, I just think that it's going to set the stage. So when we
No,
expand
this
to
is the
12
last
teams
year.
next year, so when we expand to 12
Yeah.
teams next year, you're going to have a Power Five or a Group of Five team that is going to be undefeated. That's not going to get into the playoff because it's going to end up being, oh, well, we need to see LSU's got 3 losses in the playoff before we see a Group of Five
Well,
undefeated.
no, but that's actually not going to be the way it works. So 5 positions are for the for the conference champions.
Yeah, the power. Well, how are they doing that? Because
The
one
pa-
of the
it's-
Power Five conferences is going away.
yeah, that I don't know. And then the other 7 are for
They're out
spread out
large.
for different. No, they're not all at large. There's going to be some independents, I think, and
I,
then some other conference champions, depending
I
on.
think if you're going to be reasonable about this,
Yeah,
um, you need to go like with every other division in NCAA football. 24 teams. Every conference has a reserve spot in the playoff. The first round, the top 4 teams in the nation get a bye, and then you distribute however you see
yeah.
the team.
I don't know. I don't really think that beyond 8, there's comparable strength in college football in a given year. I
I don't
mean,
know. I mean, it gives you the chance of having that upset and not having that upset where like where Utah beat Alabama in the Sugar Bowl a few years ago, and that was people were saying, well, Utah won because Alabama their top players didn't play,
right.
and
And that's legitimate. That's what's going to happen this year. Georgia's going to be close to FSU because most of the Georgia players aren't going to play.
well, most of the FSU players are not going to play either. And I'd be hard pressed if I was FSU to even take that bowl game because that's just an absolute insult. Because the kids did everything they were supposed to do.
No. Well, you're right. They did, but they didn't have a good schedule to play against this year. I mean, it's not that the conference is weak, but the
again,
conference is weak.
put Alabama's schedule. I mean, Texas A&M is trash. Mississippi State is trash. Arkansas is trash. Middle Tennessee State is trash.
Sure.
The only really
Agreed.
decent team that
100%.
South Florida is trash. University of Tennessee Chattanooga, good FCS program, trash when it comes to playing an FBS team in their
Absolutely.
schedule.
Yeah.
Like
I mean,
there's no
so they beat Mississippi at 11, right? Tennessee at 25.
and Tennessee
L-
was weak. I mean, they got their doors blown off of
yeah.
them, Georgia.
I'm just saying there was a team that
Uh-huh.
was ranked at the time. LSU and
That was after they lost to Florida State.
sure. I mean, I think that was LSU's 3rd loss.
Yeah.
My point about that being LSU was a 3-loss team.
And I think people will make just on this whole lazy argument about the SEC of having this superior schedule because they're in the SEC. They're
No,
not looking at the just absolute trash teams that are in the SEC. Like there are a few, like Missouri had a decent season this one. That's been the first time since they moved to the SEC that they've had a decent season.
but you make a great point about that because when you talk about strength of schedule, Kentucky, who's the number 10 team in the SEC whooped Louisville. Louisville's the number 2 team in the conference.
Yeah.
If you want to talk about depth, right? Nobody can compare the top 4 in the SEC to the top 4 in the ACC this year. The ACC's had years where Clemson's been good. South Carolina's still in the ACC, right?
No, they're SEC.
They're SEC.
They're trash. They've been trash for decades.
Since Lou Holtz left.
They never really did much with Lou Holtz either. But I mean, they were better, but they were not great.
Yeah. But for sure, the the conferences vary. This year, the ACC wasn't as good as the other conferences, and that's the thing about it, is that it's the depth. It's not just who you played either, because if FSU had a Michigan or a Washington, if they'd had another great team outside of their division, they would be making a very strong case for having been in there, but they didn't. I mean, Texas, if you look at Texas's schedule is actually not that exciting outside of the conference. And the conference ended up being ridiculously exciting with Oklahoma State, Kansas State.
Even West Virginia had its moments.
Yeah. So, Texas makes a good argument for itself, but it's the win over Alabama that makes their case to be in the national championship bowl.
Yeah.
If you don't schedule somebody tough outside of your conference, and
well, it's hard. That's a hard science too, because you could schedule a team that looks good on your schedule.
Yeah, I mean,
because they're like 3 or 4 seasons ahead, and the transfer portal is making a lot of schedules look bad.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I certainly think that
Alabama's always had just a trash schedule, and the only time they've really scheduled anybody outside of conference in the last 10 years has been the 2 games they played against Texas, and they almost lost the one last year against a much weaker Texas team, and then they lost the Texas game this year. And then again, I just don't. I think the whole idea of Alabama or any of the SEC teams just getting in just because they have one loss because of this supposed strength of schedule, ignoring the fact that Alabama really doesn't schedule a whole lot outside of their conference. I mean, Middle Tennessee State, Chattanooga, and who was the other cupcake that they feasted on? South Florida. They actually didn't feast on. They only won 17-7 in that game.
Yeah, I mean, everybody has an inexplicable game.
Homecoming State. Well, Alabama has it every year. They always at least 1 or 2 FCS opponents every year.
Yeah, Auburn took them to task.
Auburn, who lost to New Mexico State, I will never let them live that down. Lost to New Mexico State. You got boat raced, and then they took Alabama to the last second.
Right. And to be fair, they did try to schedule LSU. They did schedule LSU.
I think actually strength of schedule hurt Georgia, even though they lost to, they only had one loss. The fact that they lost their game against Oklahoma this year and they had to schedule like Cream Puff State University,
right,
to take that place. So,
yeah, it's a good point. I mean, there was a part, I think, where people were thinking, I mean, Georgia was number 1 all year, right?
Yeah,
coast to coast,
undefeated in 2 years until this.
Exactly, right. Actually, 29 out of the last 30 games they've won.
Yeah.
So in that context, comes Alabama's victory to win that conference. I don't think it's anything else.
Yeah.
But it's also 11:45.
Yes, it is.
You can see the audience, except for Heidi, being unhappy about our boring basketball talk, our football talk. So I have to tell you, I have a new gummy.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah. And so this is 10 milligrams.
Have you been hitting the dispensaries in Maryland yet?
No, this came from Colorado. My brother brought it down to Thanksgiving.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah.
So, but Maryland is now legal to buy.
You told me you went to that place. I'll have to go there and check it out.
Yeah, go check it out.
Yay!
All
Yep.
right, guys.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for watching.
Yep.
We will be back next week.
Like,
Hey,
click, and subscribe. Share with your friends.
this was a free
Seriously,
for all.
liking the video is important.
Yeah. There was a free for all this week that we didn't do a country because we forgot to choose a country last time. So, AJ, what country should we look at?
Oh no, that's a terrible idea. I can't think of like I think of like the stereotypical bullshit country. So I give my turn to Dan.
Dan, what country should we look at?
Cape Verde.
Cape Verde. All right, very nice. That's
See?
a good random country.
I have a friend who's there right now, sailing.
Great.
He sailed Gibraltar to Cape Verde, and now he's doing Cape Verde to Barbados on the trade winds.
There you go. That sounds
Yep.
like life, man.
He
All right,
invited me to go. I didn't go.
Next free for all Sunday that we do, we'll do Cape Verde as our country feature. But thanks everyone for watching us. And yes, like, share, subscribe, click the bell icon to get notified of when we go live, and so you never miss an episode. So
right.
thanks for everybody watching, and we'll
Say
talk to
goodnight,
you,
Gracie.
next week. Good night, Gracie.
Good night, Gracie.